Hi guys, it's Rita Freecott here from Picked and Polished in Alexandria, New Hampshire, where I love to help you create beautiful things for your home on a budget. And as you can see tonight, I'm in sort of an awkward, precarious situation here because I've got my light clipped to my counter so that you guys can see my tiles. And it's just hard for me to show you guys what I'm doing and see the comments at the same time. But today, or tonight, I really want to share some things I've learned so far by doing my test tiles in my kitchen. So I've got these old, outdated vinyl tiles, as some of you know, those of you that have been following my tile painting extravaganza over here. And hi, Mert, hi, Betty. And so I have my camera tipped. Usually I have it the long way, so you might not be able to see like the wide ways, but this will be easier, I think, for you to see everything. So when I first started this this project, I picked a couple tiles, and I have, like I said, I have vinyl tiles that were actually, I was able to grout them. They're groutable vinyl tiles, and they've been here for a while. And I think it's been like, we've had them for like 8 or 9 years, and they're just sort of tired and yucky. I don't love them, and there's been a lot of home projects we've been wanting to do. Most of you know I was sick with cancer for a while, and so everything came to a screeching halt, and so nothing really was done in between, you know, when I was trying to get better and everything, which is fine, because the big and most important thing is that I'm healthy. But now that I'm healthy, we're kind of trucking along here with our home renovation projects, DIY projects, and bringing you along for the journey. So tonight I want to kind of follow up with my last video. On my last video, I showed you guys that I cleaned really well with White Lightning Cleaner by Dixie Belle. It's a TSP based cleaner, and that's a degreaser. And you guys can see behind me I have white distressed floors, so it's not dirt everywhere. It's just the distressing of the floors behind me. So I cleaned with Dixie Belle White Lightning Cleaner really, really well. That's like, you can't clean and prep enough when you're doing a project like this. And then I rinsed with water, I let it dry, and then I used a product called Slick Stick by Dixie Belle, and that's right here. It's just like a bonding primer. It goes on metal, glass, or tile, and it's really good for helping paint adhere to slick surfaces. So I did 2 coats of that. So last week though, I ended up, I don't know if you guys remember, I was using my hair dryer to dry it quickly, and I said, make sure when you're using Slick Stick that you let it adhere and you let it like sit at least 24 hours before you paint it. And I did a little test. I did my first tile with a sticky stencil, which is this one. Can you see that this one is the opposite of this one with color? So I did a sticky stencil, so all the negative space was colored, was dry brushed with the Hurricane Gray. I did the fluff base coat and then the Hurricane Gray. This one I used a, let me grab it, a Mylar stencil that I cut myself on my Cricut. It's like a plasticky material, and it's reusable. The one I used last week was just a sticky stencil because I wanted to test it out and see if I liked the design. And I did, and so this week I switched over to this one. Which is something you wouldn't want to do. You wouldn't want to do a vinyl sticky stencil on a bajillion tiles because the prep work and the cost would be crazy, and it would be way too time consuming. So I made myself a Mylar. I think it's Mylar. I can't remember the exact fabric. I can post it later. It's like a plastic stencil, reusable stencil. And I cut it to size, and it worked perfectly. So anyway, so back to the beginning. So I cleaned, I rinsed, I dried, I painted with Slick Stick. So this tile that I did initially, I used my hair dryer and I dried it really quick, and then I put 2 coats of fluff on it really quickly. And then, hey Trisha, hey Christina. And then after that, I just went ahead and stenciled, and then I clear coated, and it was all really quick, and I used my hair dryer. And I want to show you, can you guys see these little spots? There's a couple spots that pulled up a little bit. Let's pull this down a little. So right here you can see there's a little spot that chipped up, and there's a little spot right here that chipped up. So that's not because the Slick Stick didn't work. it's because I rushed it, and I did it on purpose. I wanted to test what would happen. So I did this one, and couple little chips came up. And then this one that I kept without, I let it sit, I painted it, I let the Slick Stick stick, has been totally fine. I've scraped it with a crate, I've walked on it, I've gotten it wet, and it's been totally fine. So I just want to tell you guys, I want to remind you guys how important it is, number one, to prep really, really good. And number two, to make sure that you let the Slick Stick do its job 24 hours before you go to paint over it. And the same thing with like the clear coat. You want it to like really settle and do its thing before you go over it and start really like applying anything else to it. Hey Annie, thank you. It's so sweet. So, all right, so today what I did, I'm going to paint over this one and do it over because obviously now this one doesn't match the other two that I did. There's a couple ways that you can do this. So after I did the Slick Stick, I would let it dry for 24 hours and then I would be ready to do my base coat of fluff or whatever your base color is going to be. So I did 2 coats of fluff, let it dry, and then I did my stencil, okay? And there's another way to do this. So you can stencil right over your paint, right? Just like I did. And the way that I did it, I'll show you guys in a second exactly what I did. I'm going to do another tile live for you so you can see how it works. But one of the things you can also do is you can clear coat your fluff. Like let's say this was painted in fluff and I clear coated it. If I clear coat it, and I go over it with my stencil, it makes it easier to kind of wipe off any mistakes that I make, but I would have to clear coat again. So there's a couple different things you can do. You can paint it, get your base coat on, clear coat it with Gator Hide just one time to kind of give you like a barrier because this paint is super flat, and then you can stencil and then 2 more coats of Gator Hide, or 3, depending on how heavy traffic you're getting. Or you can just go right over the paint with your stencil, and you can still like clean things up with a paintbrush or whatever. So I would almost just hold off on the clear coat and do it at the end, but you can do it either way if that makes sense. I'm going for sort of a rustic handmade look, and one of the tips I want to give you today too, I would do this in small sections because number one, you want your Slick Stick to have time to dry, and number two, once you get your flat coat of paint on, your 2 coats, anytime you're using a super flat chalky paint, it's going to get dirty and attract dirt really, really easily and be hard to clean. So you want to get to your stenciling and your clear coat as soon as possible. And the only way to do that really is to like break it up into sections. So that's what I've done with my floor so far. Hi Trish. Hi Alicia. So good you guys are on here tonight. Okay, thank you for watching, and share. If you guys share and comment that you've shared, I will cut one of these Mylar stencils for you, reusable stencils, and ship it to you for free. So share and comment that you've shared, and I will pick somebody at the end of this live tonight. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and show you the painting part really quick. Most importantly, you want to make sure that your surface is clean, really, really clean before you get started. This is what 2 coats, this is just some paint. This is what 2 coats of Slick Stick looks like on my tile floor. My tile floors are they're just gross. They're like a metallic-y, neutral sort of finish. So thank you, Trisha. I appreciate that. This is a 12 by 12. Well, almost a 12 by 12. My 12 by 12, my Cricut mat won't let me cut exactly 12 by 12, but it's pretty close. Hey, Cindy. Thanks, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to show you like how lightly I coat. I did use the roller to apply the Slick Stick because it made it super quick. Rollers are not my friends when it comes to stenciling, and the reason is because I feel like people overuse paint. And it just kind of pushes the paint underneath the stencil. So I don't know, I'm just not a big fan of using rollers to stencil. I'm sure some people have like tricks that they use and they probably love it, but it's just not for me. And I'm like big on when you're stenciling, less is more when you're using paint. So So anyway, and this is a reusable stencil I'll be using tonight. So let's see, I'm going to use the fluff. And I'm just going to go ahead, I think, oh God. The struggle was real tonight at bedtime here. That's why I was on a little bit late. Good night, Mia. I see a little sneaky pants out there in the hallway. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and just, this is the Slick Stick, so I'm going to go over it with my fluff. And I'm not going to be stingy with my paint. Going to make sure that I get really good coverage. I didn't grab my hair dryer, so that might be a problem as far as dry time is concerned. And you could certainly roller this on too. I feel like my brush really allows me to get into the crevices and stuff of the surface, but you could definitely use a roller for this part too. And I'm just gonna let that dry, and then I would apply another coat of the fluff to this surface, and the fluff is like a gray-based white, okay? So then I'm gonna show you, this is just my Slick Stick, but since it's dry, I wanna show you how I use the stencil. I'm just gonna go over it anyway. So I wish you could do a video on how to make. Okay, so Mert, thank you for asking that. It is in the works, my friend. I'm waiting to get a better computer so that I can show you more efficiently how to make your own stencils on a Cricut. And also, at the end of this month, I'll be doing a farmhouse finish class. And I'll be showing you guys how to make a farmhouse finish home sign. Even if you don't have a Cricut, I'll show you how to do it another way, that for people that don't have a way to cut stencils and stuff. So I have a class that I'm going to be offering at the end of the month, similar to my kitchen cabinet painting class. It'll be a little bit cheaper than that. We'll be doing farmhouse finish on small projects, and then I'll be doing like a big farmhouse home sign with you guys. So I'm hoping some of you can join me for that. Cricut Maker. Okay, yeah, so I can help you guys with your Cricut projects, but I need to get a better computer first. And that it's super fun and super easy to use. So, all right, so this tile is not the fluff. It's just my Slick Stick, but I just want to show you how the stencil works, the stenciling works. So if you want to try this project at home, you'll be a little less intimidated by it, I think. So I just lay it flat, I kind of get it where I want it to be, give a little room on either side, get it pretty straight. And then I just take my tape and I tape off my corners, keep it nice and flat. I'm just going to tape off my corners there. And then I would also tape off my floor on this side where my distressed wood is, because I have a different white on that. Alright. Okay, so that's going to hold it on really well. Alright, really important tip of the night. Are you guys ready? My crazy hair, oh my gosh. It's a good thing it's off camera most of the time. Hey Sarah, hey Donna, okay, so my biggest tip for this is, and remember, this is going over Slick Stick, this is just a demo tile, I'll paint over this later, is you need a super dry brush, and I'm using a premium chip brush by Dixie Belle, because I just feel like I can pounce a little bit more than I can with my synthetic brush. My synthetic brush I use to put my base coats of paint on, the premium chip brush I'm using for the stenciling. Okay, let me know if you guys have any questions. If I don't get to them now, I'll go back and answer them when I'm done, okay? So this is my stencil. I'm going to go ahead and start stenciling over it with the Hurricane Gray. So another tip for stenciling, I always teach people this in class, less is more when you're talking paint and stencils, okay? So I'm going to tap off. I'm just going to, almost like when you're dry brushing, if you've done a dry brushing technique, I'm going to tap off quite a bit of paint, okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and start dabbing it on. And if I get some bleed through, you guys know my motto. I'm not going to get in a panic. I'm just going to fix it and paint over and touch up when I'm done. It's not a big deal. All right, so So, but if your brush is really wet, it's going to be harder to get those clean lines because the thinner the paint is, the more it's going to go underneath your stencil. So I'm just kind of dabbing it on. Just so you guys can see. I'm going to have to paint over this because this is not painted with my fluff yet, but I want you to see how easy it is to use a stencil so you're not intimidated by it. Okay. So share and comment and I will send you a free Mylar reusable stencil just like this in a 12 by 12 size. Or smaller. If you want smaller, I could do smaller too. But I can't do bigger. So again, you guys see how I'm tapping off my extra paint? I don't want to load up my brush because that paint is going to slide underneath. And if my brush is wet, it's going to make it even harder to get clean lines. Trust me. You're going to have bleeding if your brush is wet. The nice thing about the Dixie Belle is it's thick enough so it gives you a good consistency to stencil with. Whoops. So I'm just kind of pouncing on the surface. And you guys know I love anything rusty, crusty, and a little bit dusty. So this like imperfect look is what I'm going for. I do want to say too, your first layer of paint almost acts like a little bit of an adhesive. So when you go over with the first layer, it'll kind of help hold the stencil down, and then you can go over with the second layer. Thank you, Kimberly. That's so nice of you. All right, I'm trying to see. I can't see. Somebody just said something about knees, so I cannot stand working on my hands and knees, so I had a pillow out earlier. But then I thought I looked too much like a yo-yo if I grabbed it and did it on my live. So just so you know, I stick a pillow under my knees because I can't handle being on my knees doing this for too long. I need to get knee pads. Then I'll look really cool. Okay. So on this stencil, you can, like, there are some areas that are a little bit lighter, a little bit darker. If you're going for like an uneven sort of rustic look, that might be okay. I definitely am, but I want my color to be a little bit more even, so I can just go back over those areas. You're better off to do 2 light coats than doing 1 super heavy coat, okay? Because you can control where the paint goes a little better, all right? So now I'm going to take my, like my craft brush. I'm just going to go around the edge. I really should have taken this side off, so don't do what I'm doing, because I could be painting all over my floor. But I want to show you something. Baby wipes are your best friend in a project like this because they'll wipe things off in 2 seconds flat. You can go over when you're done with your project, just kind of check and see the areas that you might have like missed or messed up or whatever, and just those baby wipes will take it right off. As long as you get it before it like cures or really sets. So I'm happy with this area, I think. So now I'm going to pull it up, and then I'm going to get my corners and my edges. And remember, this is over the slick stick, so it's over like a stark white. So I'm going to have to go back over this tomorrow. But I wanted to show you guys tonight how to do the stenciling part. And that's okay if I get a little here because I've still got another coat of fluff to do. So, and you can always use painter's tape. That's a great way to keep your lines nice and clean. This is going to get gray anyway, so I'm not really worried about that. Not super worried about that right now because that's all going to get painted anyway. So I'm just going to go around my edges. And then I'll pull up my stencil here in just a second. You guys can see. It's like a test for me. Oh my gosh, I hope it comes out okay. But if not, I don't get in a panic. I just go back and I can touch it up. I can take the fluff and I can just touch up the areas that I messed up on. Just like I do when I'm making signs. I mean, you can't expect things to come out perfect all the time. And then if you know you can fix it, it'll help you feel more confident in trying projects that are a little bit more daring. I think. All right, just gonna get this corner and then we'll pull up the stencil. And you can wait until the stencil completely dries if you don't have a space to put it, like while it's wet. The nice thing is with the Dixie Belle paint is that it dries super fast. So you don't have to wait long for it to dry. All right, let's see what happens. Now, this area right here was a section that my brush was a little bit damper, so I'm wondering if I got a little bleed through under that. We'll find out. Okay. Best bet is to let this dry before you pull it up, but since we're going live here tonight, I'm just going to pull it up in front of you. Let's see. Okay. Woo, not bad, right? So that came out really pretty good. I've got some spots here that I'm going to need to clean up with the fluff, and that's okay because I didn't tape it off, so I expected to have some messiness there. But I also did that sort of on purpose because I want to show you that you can, like the baby wipe, if you get it fast enough, will take off some of your mistakes also. If you get some bleed through or something. It's a little harder in the more detailed areas. You could use a Q-tip and pull off some of that gray paint in those areas if you wanted to. Or you could just go right over it with the fluff and that would clean up that line. So again, like you don't ever want to panic if things don't come out perfect because you can either, you can either take one of those super thin micro brushes and sort of like clean up those lines, or you go over with a Q-tip and a baby wipe and clean up little areas where you might have like a splooge here and there. But overall, I feel like this tile is going to look really, really nice in our space. We have a tiny house. But I think this is a really bright, fun way to freshen things up, and it's super, super affordable with the products. So those are pretty much the tips I wanted to give you tonight. Keep baby wipes handy. Make sure you let your slick stick really set, like 24 hours, okay? Because you don't want to go back and have to redo things because you didn't prep properly. And cleaning is super important. Let me come close and just, hold on. Let me just move my camera a little bit so so prepping, cleaning really well with a degreasing cleaner, a TSP, is just really, really important. If you don't do those things correctly, you are not going to have adhesion the way you want it. So when these are all done, I'll do like a section at a time. I'm not going to leave my flat finished product, like this doesn't have any clear coat on it right now. It's super flat. So if I leave that for a couple days without a clear coat, it's going to get nasty really quick. So I'm going to definitely want to seal that by tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon. And then I'm going to seal it with 3 coats of gator hide and let that sit and try to keep traffic away from this area for a couple days. And that's why, again, why I'm doing it in sections, because even after the second day I put gator hide on it, it should be fine. Most likely, actually, these tiles were fine, the first ones I did, but just to be cautious, we want to give it a couple days maybe to work around them. So I will probably be doing a blog post soon. I've got a new blog in the works on WordPress. My husband has been really helpful in that, and so at some point within the next few weeks, I'll be launching a new blog to get more juicy details on all this fun stuff out there. So I'm going to pick a winner tonight. Somebody that wins the Mylar stencil, the reusable stencil, right here. Okay. Let me see who I pick here. I'm going to leave that off to the side. It's still super wet, so okay. All right, let's see. Oh, I got a green. Hold on a second, guys. I'm going to pick somebody that said shared. Okay, Cindy Padilla. Cindy, you get a 12 by 12 Mylar stencil, my friend. So I already have your address, so I'll pop it in the mail this week. Thanks so much, you guys, for joining me tonight. Be sure to share with someone that might enjoy this project too. And be looking for me on Thursday. I come on every Tuesday and Thursday, and this week I'm doing farmhouse finishes. And I'm going to show you how to do a really, really pretty, timeless, dark stain with whitewash technique over it. on Thursday on a small home decor project, and be looking for my February class because I'll be posting that soon. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.